Okay, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Thank you for your questions.
Thoughts on Jalen Johnson going to his second straight Pro Bowl?
Excellent job by him. Really excited for him and our defense, and well deserved. And just really excited for him and proud of him.
Eric, what do you want to see out of your group in this last game against Green Bay at Lambeau Field?
The same thing we saw last week. I want him to play with passion, with intensity. I want him to be situationally smart. I want us to limit their rushing attack and just play with the kind of the execution that we saw the other night against Seattle.
Where have you seen the most growth from Javon Dexter this year?
Well, his rush production has really picked up, and he's been impactful as a rusher, and he's also been able to finish against the quarterback, and I think that was a targeted area for him, and there's a lot more to gain as he continues to work and to get better and to get stronger and all of the things that you want to see in terms of his growth.
What have you seen in Jordan Love in the last couple weeks since you faced them last?
Yeah, well, the accuracy is really there. He's not missing a lot of targets. He knows where he wants to go with the football. He's diagnosing the coverages. He's going to his secondary targets, and he's really taking care of the football. They have not turned the ball over a lot in the last 2 or 3 weeks.
With Tyreek, we saw that obviously he's been playing full time the past couple of weeks. What did he kind of show you over the maybe 2 months that earned him back that opportunity?
Just the intensity and focus, and just being a person that is really strong at the point of attack. A lot of these rushing concepts are forcing the corners to tackle, to forcing them to be the primary at the point of attack. He's done a really good job with that. His focus, his eye discipline. As a one-on-one guy outside on the perimeter, and just his execution of our coverage concepts, we thought it would be prudent to give him the full run and to just let him continue to take it.
Tyler Gordon will be eligible for a contract extension next season. What have you seen from his game just throughout this year that tells you that he's a guy that's deserving of something like that?
Well, the business of his contract aside, Kyler is a very versatile player. Really good in the slot. He's a good blitzer, very impactful blitzer. Really good understanding some of our coverage concepts as an underneath defender. And a lot of times, depending on what you're doing, teams will try and isolate the nickel position, especially in man concepts. We feel very comfortable with him covering the slot receiver in man coverage. And we utilize our nickels in the box, in the core, as run defenders. And there's no hesitation with him. He's a well-rounded player, young, very versatile player, and he still has a lot of room to grow.
As much emphasis as you guys put on the nickel being able to do all these things, do you think he's got a skill set that transcends scheme?
Well, I know he's a great fit for what we'd like to see him do, and that position is so important. It's essentially a starter's position, especially when you get 3 wide receiver personnel groups. And so he's a great fit for us. We're glad we're having.
Kareem Edmonds, had a pretty good year last year. Seems to have hit the wall as far as his progress into flourish into a difference-making player that the Bears expected. You've seen him up close from the beginning. Where's he at in his career, and what's the reason why he just hasn't kind of taken that next step this season in this defense?
Yeah, Tremaine has done a tremendous job leading our defense. That job, it has a lot of dimensions to it, and he's essentially the primary communicator. He's the quarterback of our defense. He's done an exceptional job as far as that's concerned. Some of the splash plays that you'd like to see, we've been close, but to borrow an expression, no cigar. That's due to circumstance. Tremaine will be the first person to tell you that he liked to make some of those plays. We saw 1 or 2 the other night. I wouldn't characterize the way he's played as taking a step back. You always want more production, especially from your frontline guys. That's in there, and I'm sure as we move forward, we'll find a way to get that out of him.
How much harder is their job made, the linebackers and DBs, when you're not getting the pressure on the quarterback the way that I'm sure that you would like to over these last couple of weeks?
Yeah, it's really tough, especially when the premise of your defense is predicated on getting pressure from the front four. It's really difficult because you can't live and die with pressuring the quarterback all the time, that becomes an easy proposition for the quarterback and the offense in general to exploit. I think last week was a really good example. It was a great snapshot of what we can be when our front four, when they're generating pressure and they're forcing the quarterback off schedule, off of his timing. We got to do that. We've not been as consistent as we needed to with that, and it does create some problems for you.
Eric, I know that game flow dictates how much like players are going to be in the game on defense, but for Montez, I think it was less than 50% of the snaps last week, and there have been a couple times where he's hovered higher, and he's hovered a couple times with the rotation being low. Like, is there a rhyme or reason behind that? Why like the lower snap count numbers for a player who is the game changer?
Yeah, what we try and do is just make sure that we utilize the rotation in a manner that gives him a chance, specifically with him, a chance to be as explosive as possible in critical situations. Montez is a 3-down player. He can impact the game on first and second down, regardless of the personnel. We'd really like for him to be in a great position to impact the game on third down, 2 minute, to manage his snap count. And so that's really all there is to it. The guys that we have up, Dominique Robinson did a really nice job on first and second down for us. And then we were able to get Montez in a nice rhythm and a nice flow in some of those situations I just mentioned.
Eric, I know you're in week-to-week mode, but this will be the last time I think we'll get to talk to you. I'm probably going to get you next week, but can you at least address this defense, what happened in this defense after the bye, particularly after the Hail Mary, and how much effect either that had or just in general, kind of the demise, why this defense's effectiveness was so much less in the second half than in the first half?
Well, respectfully, I'm not in a mode to be reflective right now. We've got the Green Bay Packers, and I'm going to continue to be focused on that. There'll be plenty of time to assess and evaluate that. I will say this. In this business, you have to be consistent. You have to be consistent. And we, just looking back, the one thing that I would say is we lived in the world of the extremes way too often. There were times where it was extremely good, and then there were times where it worked on the other end. And you have to stay out of that business when you're trying to compete and you're trying to give yourself the best chance to help your football team win week in and week out.
To that end, I mean, a lot of these guys have never gone through 10-game losing streaks. How have you seen them, just their attention to detail this week, keeping their attention? Has that been challenging, any of that stuff?
I'll refer to the game that we just played against Seattle. I mean, we held a team to 6 points. And so that, to me, I'll let you look at that, the effort that we played with, the outcome aside. And for the defensive side of the ball, that's the only thing I can speak for. And I think that play, the way that they competed, speaks for itself as far as attention to detail, effort, focus, and all those types of things.
Eric, Zach Pickens was a healthy scratch in that game against Seattle. What do you need to see from him for him to get on the field, being a former third-round pick there?
Yeah, just compete with velocity, with violence, with just with a combative personality and a combative attitude. Just be a difference maker, and just attain the type of production that we expect from a gap-aligned defensive tackle. We need production. We need a certain amount of impact, a certain amount of factor production, and Zach will continue to grow, and we'll get that from him. Thank you.
Happy New Year. I'll just open it up for questions.
We talked to Caleb yesterday, and he was very much defending the offensive line and some of the things that have been said about them. And just curious what you thought of the way he has handled that situation, just to be up here and kind of, I guess, take one and say that some of those are on him.
Yeah, I saw the press conference. I thought he said the right things. I think he said, you take ownership for some of the things that, aren't going well, and you take ownership for some of the things that are beyond your control too. That's part of being in that position and having that responsibility. That's us as coaches as well. So, I think Caleb's come a long way, in learning how this game goes. It's a completely different game than the college game, and the way this thing just unfolds is different. So I think he's shown a lot of maturity. Still got a long way to go. We all do. But you can definitely see there's been levels of growth as we went through the season.
Obviously, you want stability if you're a quarterback, but like in college, he had the same person, same offense, same person calling the play for 3 years. Not saying that like you want somebody to transfer and have all these different offenses, but is that why it might have taken him a little bit longer to grasp some things here, just given that he never dealt with this magnitude of change before?
I think the college game is completely different. You see that, and all those guys that were with Lincoln in the past, they had learning curves too, even Baker, and he was, a little bit further ahead, I think, than some of the others that were early picks. So I do think there's some maturity that goes through the process of this. And at the end of the day, we were looking at it a couple weeks ago where Bo Nix is 23 or 24 and Caleb is 3 years out. Those guys are 6 years in, having played. So I do think there's some maturity things that way. But at the end of the day, I think stability is huge for everybody, particularly the quarterback, and him not being exposed to as much as maybe Michael Penix or some of those other guys, Bo Nix and those guys. Those things do. Experience is everything. And so in his case, I think he's learning through this experience.
It seems like, throughout this season, there's been a consistent, at some point in the game, disconnect between Caleb and one of his wide receivers. When you look at that, when you get to this point in the season, how can that still be that guys are still not on the same page?
Yeah, I don't necessarily see it that way. I think there's obviously miscommunication here and there, and they're seeing some things differently. Most of the time that happens, on, hey, I'm sitting down in this hole as opposed to sitting in the second window and not seeing that. They see the same thing, but the windows are different to each of them. And so those things are things that you continue to try to clean up. Like, again, I hate to keep saying it, but experience is the biggest thing. The more Caleb sees those things, just like to Courtney's question, you sit back, the more times you see these things, the more you're able to adjust to them. I saw a great picture the other day. We were watching a quarterback. I want to say who it was, but he went through his progression like bang, bang, and then he got to his fifth progression, but it looked like he was first. And so the ball was out like on time, and everyone knew exactly where they were going. Well, they'd been in the offense. They all knew exactly how it went, and the defense dictated where the ball went, as opposed to sometimes us trying to dictate where the ball goes. And I think sometimes that's leads to some of the miscommunications that you see.
Caleb has talked to us about, wanting to work as hard as he can this offseason.
Mm-hmm.
What's your diagnosis for where would you tell him, okay, start here? What are the big things you think he needs, that he can improve on his own?
Yeah.
Not being in this building next couple of months.
Yeah, I think his footwork, speeding up his footwork would help. I think those things, when you look at it, like Patrick Mahomes gets so much depth away from the pocket, and then he's able to step up. Where I think Caleb hasn't learned yet that, hey, we might need to get a little deeper in our drop to be able to step up and be able to hold the pocket in the middle. So sometimes he's stepping up on top of the lineman because it's all those things that you learn through the process of experience. Again, I keep saying the same thing, but at the end of the day, I think those things. I think getting with these guys. I talked to our guys in the receiver room. It's going to be important for the people that are back to be able to do those things in the off season, whether it's the OTAs, everybody showing up, or the groups going out somewhere warm and practicing and getting their timing down and being able to see things the same. To your point, we talked about that as far as we've got to make sure that we get to a level or, that we all see first window, second window, third window the same and not see it differently based upon where we are in the offense or in our location. So I think those things would definitely help him. But I think the greatest thing for Caleb is the experience and being a little bit now you sit back and that, hey, this is a little harder than I thought it was going to be. I think we all go through that. Like, we come in and we think, oh, we'll take this thing over. And then you get humbled. This league is humbling. It's like golf, And at the end of the day, you want to learn how to make sure, my game is where it needs to be before I start getting mad at everybody else. So I think it's all a process.
Chris, I know it feels like forever ago though, but in the Thursday night game, late in the first quarter where you see that throw that was missed to Rome, on that deep dig. Is that what it is? Did Caleb think it was gonna be one window, Rome's throttling down? Is that kind of what you
That's exactly what it was. And Rome saw the window. Caleb was right. Rome should have stayed on the move and been a second window throw. But Rome kind of felt like, hey, I'm going to sit in this first window because he felt like he was open there. But I always tell our guys, we have to see it like the quarterback would see it, right? So if he doesn't necessarily sit back and see that window, if you can't see him, then he probably can't see you. So you need to keep going to the next window. And even though, we can't anticipate, it's going to be a layered throw or whatever. So completely our fault, but it was one of those deals. That's exactly what happened.
Is it normal to you? You think that like with a young quarterback like this, hey guys, it may not be a 17-week process we get on the same page. It may be year 2, all of a sudden the comfort clicks in.
Yeah, I definitely think so. Coming from LA with Justin, and he had some veteran receivers, but we had a new offense and a new system, and it took time for him to get used to Mike running certain routes a certain way and Keenan running routes a certain way. And I think it's been the same thing here with Caleb. DJ's got a different skill set than Keenan does, and Rome is different than both of them. So you're trying to figure those things out on the fly, and then you're trying to learn how to spit out a play call, how to change a protection, how to do all these things that you've never had to do before. Because before, the Courtney's thing is, you sit back, you look to the sideline, everybody saw it. I didn't have to talk to anybody. We just got lined up, and now you got a cadence. That little bit was a learning curve for us. So all of it is different. And you hope through time and through experience that he'll get better, and all of us will get better in that specific area.
Thomas was saying that he has little flexibility in terms of changing the play call after he gets it. Do you think that's normal for a rookie quarterback to just take the play call, run what's executed?
Yeah, I think so. And there's some flexibility as far as being able to change it based on the defense. But at the same time, we don't want him up there getting paralysis by analysis type deals. So we want to be able to function and get the offense going. We already, are up against the clock quite a bit, with our operation. So you can't have too many options right now, and at this stage of where we're at.
What's a flipper check? He said that yesterday. Is it flipper check or flip or a check?
No, it's a flipper.
Like a dolphin flipper?
No, like
You don't know
yeah, flipper like a dolphin flipper, right? So all it's doing is just being able to change a protection and being able to change some things up front, to be able to pick some things up. That's kind of standard throughout the league.
From a sideline check, like something.
No.
All right.
Based on the defense.
Keenan has obviously shown flashes this year, but I feel like we didn't get the full Keenan Allen experience that he had in LA. For Bears fans who just kind of watched him closely this year, what do you appreciate about Keenan during the course of his career, and even though it might not have kind of come out here as often as it did?
Yeah, Keenan is a pro's pro, and like I said, I think he's, people pattern their game after him. It's amazing because I was in college and we would watch Keenan Allen cut-ups, and then the next thing I'm in front of him coaching him, and I'm like, okay, how am I going to tell this guy how to run these routes when I've been teaching our guys off of his stuff? So, but I appreciate Keenan more than I could really express because he's allowed me to coach him. And I think there's a lot of stars in this league that don't want to be coached, but then the great ones allow you to coach them and try to help make them better. So I appreciate that, and I think the fans should appreciate the fact that he gives everything he has. He sits back and coaches our guys, as far as he has a meeting with all the skill guys on Thursdays, to be able to just talk about it and see, hey, this is how we see it, make sure the quarterback sees it the same, and we're all kind of seeing things the same, because he's, an encyclopedia of football.
He's a guy who essentially played with two quarterbacks and two pretty good ones his whole career.
Yeah.
What amount of patience did he need to come in here, not only to learn a new quarterback, but a rookie who's probably still learning himself?
Yeah, Keenan doesn't have a lot of patience. That's not a big part of what he is. And he learned from Phillip, and Phillip would sit back, and Phillip, to your point, like he would coach everything. So Phillip would change everything at the line of scrimmage. He'd tell you, I'm coming to you. and look at him and they would know what to do. And it might be a completely different than was called in the huddle. And then you get to Justin, and Justin's completely different. And so there was some frustrations there in that early deal, but Justin was so, friendly to everything, because he was so pliable. Like anything Keenan or Mike or those guys said, Justin would do it. And so it was easy, in that respect. And then I think to come to this situation, we're all trying to learn something new, something, we're trying to learn how everyone works. And sometimes those things are difficult. But I do think, like I said, he's one of those type of guys that's a quarterback's best friend. I think Caleb would probably come tell you the same thing, like where he's going to be, because he knows defenses better than most coaches do.
What do you hope that a guy like Rome learned just from watching Keenan this year and like you were saying in some of those meetings?
How to be a pro. I think you sit back and you learn how to study, how to learn how systems work. I think that's been a big process for Rome. And then it's, some of the details within the route, the top of the route, some of the wiggle and some of the stuff that he does that Rome's game actually fits. Like, doesn't necessarily fit DJ, but does fit how Rome moves in his body movement. So I think the biggest thing is learning, how do I learn defenses? How do I learn to be able to speed up my game by seeing what the defense does?
Does Keenan want to be a coach? Is that why you've kind of given him this flexibility to, be that player? I guess the one who's in the encyclopedia who can relay that. Has he expressed that to you?
No, because that would be a huge pay cut. But I think he could if he wanted to. He's, like I said, he's as smart as anybody I've ever been around. And then I think he understood early, that, hey, Caleb, the more we can sit down and talk to him and just talk ball, would help him on the back end. So he kind of took that over. That was his really suggestion earlier in the season, was like, hey, why don't I start meeting and we all can just meet, during when everyone's in the special teams, we can have some of those guys that aren't. And he kind of took that over and took control of that. And I think, like I said, he could easily be a coach if he wanted to, but I don't know if that's what he wants to do or not. Sometimes he jokes about it, and then sometimes he's like, that's a way bigger pay cut than I'm ready to do. So,
Okay.
hey, thank you.
Thank you.
Right?
Yeah.
I don't even know where it is.
Good to see you.
You too.
Good afternoon. Happy New Year to you all. Thank you. All right, go ahead. What do you all have? Go ahead and shoot.
Richard, on Tyler Scott's tackle, what did you see on that play? And yeah, how does that speak to what Tyler, the resilience for, I think, this season, not playing a lot on offense, but able to show it on special teams there?
Yeah, I saw a guy obviously taking advantage of his opportunity. Really happy for Tyler and proud of him. Like I said to you all last week, he's really earned those opportunities throughout practice the last month or so. So I was happy to see him go in there and make a huge play. Good job by the protection. Good job by Torrey putting the placement of the ball in a great area, and great job by Tyler on his release and winning and forced and made that great tackle. Not only did he do that, though, he also had 3 other balls that he was responsible for forcing fair catches on inside the 20-yard line. So that was outstanding by him. I'm just happy to see him factor that much to be involved in 4 different opportunities to get the ball really inside the 16-yard line. Was outstanding by him. So just really proud of him. It doesn't surprise me. I could talk all day about Tyler, obviously, because I love the kid. Loved him since he's gotten here, and just seeing him continue to be focused and fight through. And that's all I want these guys to do, is be focused, fight through, take advantage of your opportunities, put good tape good tape out there, put good film so people can see it.
How would you characterize Torrey's season as a whole?
Yeah, it's hard for me. I'm going to reflect, honestly, Kevin, after the season, on their whole season. I think he played his behind off last game. He had 7 punts, 5 inside the 20-yard line. And hopefully this week, we don't – I always like to see him go out there, but I don't really like to see him go out there, if that makes any sense, So I just, it's gonna be 20-degree weather, different challenge for him. High of 20, what we saw earlier in the week. So I'm excited to see him compete in those conditions. But up until this point, I won't reflect on the whole season, but I'll try to answer your question. Up until this point, I think that he's really helped our football team in a major way, and I think people can agree to disagree on the pick, but I think the pick was outstanding and phenomenal the way he's helped our football team. A lot of people can't uh, tell because you really have to study it. You really have to know how that helps the defense, how it helps the offense, how it helps everyone when you got somebody that can flip the field position like that on a consistent basis. It's a game changer, and a lot of other coordinators and a lot of other people talk to me about it pregame all the time. Like, that dude is a dude, and he's gonna be a dude for a long time, and he's just a baby right now, learning how to play. So it's um, for him, it's one game at a time, and I want to see him. I want to see him perform, and I'm challenging his behind to perform in this weather. So that's what I want to see from him.
Yale didn't have any punt return yards in that Thursday night game. What does that say about the coverage unit, Torrey, everybody being on the same page at this point in the season?
Yeah, I mean, it just speaks volumes to the players and their effort and their commitment to wanting to be great. We always try to push them to be great in our room and to take advantage of their opportunities. And every play is its own play within itself. Every play is own play with is only every play is its own entity, its own play. So can you be great for one play? So it says a lot about the resolve of the unit, of the coverage unit, going down there, being able to all play together. I mean, Tori was talking to me the other day, and I'm gonna embarrass Eamon on this, but it's kind of cool because I didn't know the story, so I think it's newsworthy that Eamon always asked Tori questions about punting and ball placement, and at the interior they ask a lot of questions about how he kicks certain footballs and what spin he's putting on certain footballs. And when we call this call, Eamon wants to know where the location of the football is. Most people don't ask that stuff, so that should give you a little bit of a look into why they're performing the way they're performing, and we just got to do it again. Like, I've been proud of the resolve and the fight and the way they fight on special teams all the time to try to make game-changing plays when people count them out. And then really they've done that since week one. They've done that since Tennessee. And I tell J.O. and Hardy that all the time. They've done that since week one. That's who they are. When we down 17-0, 17-3, that's who they are. So I just want to see them do it again because Thursday night's over. You know what I mean? I hope that answers your question.
Richard, having been here longer than a lot of the coaches and understanding the Packers rivalry, can you use that at all this week? I know it's obviously a tough situation for everybody to be in at this spot in this season with your record, but can you use the Packers element and you knowing the city and knowing how much this rivalry means to kind of get the guys going a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, we've done it since the game was over on Thursday night because the only thing I'm focused on is the Packers. And really, the Packers is what should be talked about. Nothing else should be talked about, in my personal opinion. Not next season, not anything should be talked about other than the focus of beating the Packers, because that's important to this organization and it's important to the city. And the last game's over, obviously, that we played them. This is an entirely new game, and it means a lot to beat them. And I want these guys to be able to feel that and experience that, because it's nothing else should be talked about, in my personal opinion. Everybody got a job to do, and it's to beat the Packers. That's what, to keep it clean up here, is to beat the Packers. Anything else? All right. Thank you all.
You.